Have you ever felt trapped in the cycle of waiting? Maybe you're holding on for the perfect moment, hoping that the circumstances will shift just enough for you to finally pursue what you've always dreamed of. But deep down, in the quiet moments of your day, do you feel the growing ache, the frustration of being stuck in place, watching time slip by while your dreams remain untouched, like distant stars you can't seem to reach? What if that dream in your heart was meant to be chased right now? Not later, not when things are perfect, but in the midst of the imperfection. The pain of inaction can sometimes be the heaviest burden to bear. It gnaws at the soul, whispering questions of what if, and why not, yet we convince ourselves that we're simply being wise by waiting for the right opportunity. But the harsh reality is, waiting often hides the fear of failure, the fear of stepping outside our comfort zones and confronting the unknown. Comfort may feel like relief, but it's often the silent killer of dreams. Is it possible that you're more afraid of realizing your potential than you are of staying in the same place, stuck in mediocrity? You see, every time you hold back, every time you silence that small voice within that urges you to move forward, you're choosing safety over purpose. C.S. Lewis tells us that hardships, those moments of doubt, struggle, and fear, are often the very things that shape us for our greater destiny. What if the pain you're feeling, that tension in your chest, isn't a sign to retreat, but rather an invitation to grow, to break free from the comfortable chains that hold you back and step into the unknown with faith? What if this discomfort is meant to propel you toward something extraordinary, something only you can bring into this world? I know the fears and doubts you face aren't easy to shake. The voices that tell you it's too late, that you're not capable, or that your dreams are too far out of reach, they're relentless, aren't they? But those voices are lies. Deep inside, beneath the surface of hesitation, there's a yearning, a fire that refuses to be extinguished. You feel it every day, don't you? That desire to make a difference, to live fully, to use your gifts in a way that matters. The fear may always be there, but it should never be what defines you. Your true self is waiting for you to take the leap of faith, to trust that the God who planted those dreams in your heart will also give you the strength to see them through. So, let me ask you this: is staying in the safety of the familiar truly more fulfilling than the possibility of stepping into the unknown and discovering the life you've always longed for? You know that there is more for you. You were created with purpose, a purpose that won't wait for perfect circumstances to unfold. The dream placed inside of you is not a mistake. It's there for a reason, and it's waiting for you to act, to push through the doubts, to face the fears head-on. It's time to challenge yourself to move, even if it's just one small step. The perfect moment you're waiting for doesn't exist. Instead, God works in the present, right here, in the middle of your uncertainty and fear. It is in this messy, imperfect space that you will find the strength to act, the courage to trust, and the power to overcome. Your breakthrough is not waiting for a better time. It's waiting for your bravery, your willingness to say, "I will not be held back any longer." Remember, every step forward, no matter how uncertain, brings you closer to the extraordinary life you were meant to live. So stay with me on this journey. There's so much more ahead for you, more than you can imagine. Together, we will uncover the strength within, the strength that's been there all along, waiting to be unleashed. If this resonates with you, and if you feel the call to step into your purpose, please like and comment below. Let me know how this message speaks to your heart, and stay with me as we continue exploring the path to the life God has planned for you. You are not alone in this. Let's walk this journey together. Can I get a "God is great" from you? Have you ever been consumed by the weight of your dreams, feeling them so vividly, yet remaining frozen in place? You prayed for clarity, envisioned a new beginning, but as the days passed, the gap between where you stood and where you longed to be grew wider. What is it that keeps you still, unable to take even the first step? Perhaps it's not just fear, but the fear of failing that holds you back. The thought that stepping forward might dismantle the image of the future you've so carefully painted. How often do we let this fear of imperfection, of discomfort, chain us to a life of almosts and what ifs? C.S. Lewis had a profound understanding of this struggle. He recognized that courage doesn't simply accompany our moments of triumph, it manifests in the very instances when we feel most vulnerable. As he said, courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point. It is during these testing points that our true selves emerge, refined not in comfort but in the fires of challenge and uncertainty. Have you ever considered that fear might be a necessary companion on the path to your dreams? Instead of viewing it as a barrier, could it be a guidepost, showing you where growth is needed most? We often wait for the right time, believing that once fear subsides, action will follow. But what if waiting only prolongs the fear? What if taking action is the antidote? Lewis himself knew the paradox of fear and faith, often exploring how stepping out in faith doesn't mean the absence of fear, but rather acting in spite of it. Think back to a moment when you felt the most terrified, starting a new job, entering a relationship, or pursuing a forgotten passion. Were you not standing at the edge of transformation, trembling but also on the cusp of becoming? In the depths of our most daunting moments, we often find ourselves standing at a crossroads. Fear, that familiar shadow, grips tightly, leaving us trembling and uncertain. Yet, as C.S. Lewis reminds us, these very moments, the ones that make us wish we could retreat, are the crucibles where true character is formed. He once said, "Courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point." What does this mean for you? It means that the essence of who you are, your faith, love, integrity is tested most when fear is loudest, when the challenge feels insurmountable. Have you ever wondered why fear feels so overwhelming? Why it seems to dictate the choices we make, even when we know it holds us back? It's because fear highlights the places we need to grow the most. Lewis would argue that it's not fear itself that we should avoid, but the temptation to let fear dictate our path. Think about it, if every great hero had turned away when fear first knocked, would we know their names? Moses faced the Red Sea. David stood before Goliath. They chose to move forward not in the absence of fear, but in spite of it. Consider the dreams you've put on hold. What dreams have you abandoned because the road seemed too perilous? What opportunities have slipped through your fingers because the risks felt too high? Lewis asks us to reflect not on the fear, but on how we respond to it. Will we, like the heroes of faith, trust that the trials before us are not meant to destroy us, but to refine us? What if the very thing you're afraid of is the doorway to your greatest blessing? Today, take a moment to confront your own fears. What is the one thing you've been avoiding, the one challenge that continues to haunt your thoughts? Rather than allowing it to paralyze you, could it be the very compass guiding you to your true purpose? As Lewis would ask, are you willing to step forward into the unknown, trusting that on the other side of fear is the life God intended for you all along? In the end, courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act with faith despite it. Will you take that step? Have you ever paused to ask yourself why fear so often precedes your greatest triumphs? Why is it that the moments when we're most afraid also seem to hold the most potential for growth? Fear, that gripping emotion we often try to avoid, may actually be pointing us toward our breakthrough. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point." What if, instead of seeing fear as an obstacle, you began to see it as the very thing testing your courage, perseverance, and faith? Consider this: when you face fear head-on and move forward despite its presence, what happens within you? You tap into a reservoir of strength that you never knew existed. Every mountain of fear becomes a path to a higher purpose, shaping your character and deepening your reliance on God. C.S. Lewis spoke of the severe mercy of life's challenges, which, though painful, refine us like golden fire. It is in those moments of stepping beyond your comfort zone, with fear as your companion, that you grow in ways unimaginable. But let's dig deeper. Why does fear often feel like a barrier to becoming the person God has called you to be? Is it because fear reveals where you feel weak or inadequate? Or could it be that fear is revealing exactly where God is asking you to trust Him more? In fact, what if fear is the very place where God is calling you to step out in faith, trusting that He will meet you there? As C.S. Lewis pointed out, faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted, in spite of your changing moods. Imagine seeing fear not as a threat, but as a signpost pointing you towards spiritual growth. Could it be that the discomfort you feel is the very indication that you're on the verge of something new, something transformative? Instead of retreating, what if you embraced fear as a guide, as a mentor, leading you into the life God has purposed for you? In doing so, you begin to uncover the divine strength that lies dormant within, waiting for the moment when you choose to trust, not in your own power, but in His. Fear, then, is not the enemy. It is the refining fire that brings forth your most authentic self, aligning you closer with God's will and purpose for your life. The journey through fear is the path to becoming the person God has always intended for you to be. How will you respond the next time fear stands in your way? Will you shrink back, or will you see it as an opportunity for courage, faith, and transformation? The choice, as always, is yours. What is it that keeps you rooted in place, afraid to move forward? Is it the fear of failure or the uncertainty of what lies ahead? Deep down, you already know that holding back will never satisfy that quiet voice inside, the one calling you towards something greater. What dreams have you set aside because the risk seems too overwhelming? Often, it's easier to settle into comfort than to face the unknown. But what if staying comfortable is what's truly holding you back from living a life of meaning and purpose? C.S. Lewis once said, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." What if your current fears are the very things shaping you for something far greater than you can imagine? Fear can paralyze, but it can also be a signpost pointing you toward growth. What if the discomfort you feel isn't a barrier but an invitation? An invitation to take that first small step, trusting that the path will unfold as you walk it. The journey toward fulfilling your purpose will challenge you, but it will also transform you. Isn't transformation the very essence of what we long for? To be more than we are today? The truth is, every great story, every act of courage begins with a single moment of decision. And it is often in those moments of decision that God's grace meets us, giving us the strength to continue. As Lewis beautifully illustrates in The Problem of Pain, growth doesn't come through ease but through trials. Every step forward, however small, not only brings you closer to your dreams, but reveals a depth of resilience and courage within you that you may not yet see. What lies on the other side of fear is not just the fulfillment of your dreams, but the discovery of your God-given potential. What holds you back from the life you're called to live? Is it the fear of the unknown, or perhaps the weight of past failures? We often wait for a perfect moment that never arrives, believing that there will be a time when all circumstances align and make our next step effortless. But C.S. Lewis once reminded us that at the testing point, every decision we make in moments of uncertainty builds the very courage we seek. It's not in the waiting, but in the action itself that we find growth. So, what step will you take today? Will you remain stuck in the illusion of later, or trust that God is guiding you, even when the path is unclear? Let's journey forward in faith together, one step at a time, trusting that each movement brings us closer to the purpose He has laid before us. Have you ever paused to consider the significance of each step you take in life? It's easy to get caught up in the allure of success, the achievements, the milestones that prove our efforts. But have you wondered if the true transformation happens not when we reach the finish line, but in the moments that shape us on the journey? C.S. Lewis once reflected, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." It's in these challenges, when we confront our deepest fears, that we learn who we truly are. The process, with its highs and lows, teaches us resilience, courage, and perseverance. The person you become through each trial is the real reward. You might believe that taking action requires bold, dramatic gestures, a complete life overhaul, or drastic changes. But the truth is, action is often found in the subtle, consistent choices you make every day. Lewis beautifully highlights that. Isn't it funny how day by day nothing changes, But when you look back, everything is different. Change doesn't always come with fanfare, it comes with small, deliberate steps forward. Sending that email you've delayed, speaking to someone you've avoided, or even waking up just a bit earlier to nurture your passion, these are the seeds of transformation. Small actions, when repeated, lead to an unstoppable momentum. Ask yourself what holds you back from those small, meaningful actions. Is it fear, doubt, or perhaps the weight of uncertainty? Imagine if you could release the burden of perfection and simply focus on progress. With each step, you build confidence, momentum, and a stronger foundation for future victories. Remember, as Lewis wrote, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. The process of action itself refines you, helping you evolve into someone capable of not just dreaming but daring to make those dreams a reality. Have you ever found yourself paralyzed by the fear of failure? Do those nagging questions echo in your mind? What if everything crumbles? What if I risk it all and lose? What if people see my mistakes and judge me? These fears, though common, can trap us in a state of inaction, convincing us that it's safer to stay still than to take a leap. But, as C.S. Lewis once suggested, failures are fingerposts on the road to achievement. If we never risk failure, how will we ever know the depth of our potential? Failure often feels like a heavy burden, like a verdict against our abilities, but what if it's more than that? What if failure is a teacher? Lewis, in many of his works, highlighted the importance of struggle in our spiritual and personal journeys. He often pointed out that avoiding failure means we're avoiding growth. The truth is, failure sharpens our character, builds resilience, and draws us closer to God in ways success never could. When we stumble, we have an opportunity to rise again, stronger, wiser, more aware of our limitations and strengths. You might think, but what if I never recover to that? Ask yourself, what is worse, to fail or to never have tried? The alternative to failure is not success, as we often imagine, but stagnation. Refusing to act out of fear leads to a life half-lived, where dreams fade and passions are snuffed out. As Lewis would suggest, there are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. By staying trapped in our fears, we are closing the door to those better things. So, why not take that step? Yes, you might fail, you might fall, but in that failure you learn, you grow, you develop perseverance. Lewis knew the pain of failure and rejection. His early writings were not well received, and yet, without those setbacks, we would never have known the rich depth of his later works. Failure was the soil in which his greatness grew, and your failure could be the soil in which your future successes are planted. In the end, the biggest failure is not in falling, it's in never rising, in never trying. Ask yourself, are you willing to embrace failure as part of your journey, or will you let fear of it keep you from experiencing the fullness of life God intends for you? Have you ever asked yourself why it's so hard to take that first step toward your dreams? We often sit on the edge of our potential, waiting for a perfect moment that never arrives. What if the very fear that holds you back is the key to unlocking your future? C.S. Lewis once said, "Courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point. It's when you're standing at the edge of discomfort, unsure of the outcome, that courage becomes a catalyst for growth." But how often do we avoid this edge, retreating back into the safety of our comfort zones, fearing failure, rejection, or judgment? Imagine this: what if instead of waiting for the right time you decided to act now, right where you are, with what you have? Take that one step today, no matter how small, that propels you forward. Maybe it's the phone call to that person whose advice could change everything. Maybe it's signing up for a class you've been hesitant about, because deep down, you're scared of being a beginner again. Or perhaps it's confronting someone who has been taking more than they give, draining your energy without realizing it. What is stopping you from doing it? Lewis also reminds us that you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. That's the beauty of action. It rewrites your future. If you keep waiting for the perfect moment, you're letting your story stay stuck in the same chapter. Perfection doesn't exist, and readiness is a myth. Often, the strength you need only comes after you've taken that first step. So, what are you waiting for? Validation, permission. The truth is, God has already equipped you with everything you need to begin. The validation you seek won't come from outside, it's already within you. Ask yourself, what dream are you delaying because of fear? And more importantly, what could happen if you chose to step into that fear, trusting that the process will shape you into someone stronger, braver, and more capable? Take the leap. Your future self will thank you for it. Have you ever wondered what holds you back? What keeps you from stepping into the potential you know is inside of you? The future you've glimpsed in your most inspired moments? It's fear, isn't it? That familiar, creeping doubt, that voice that says you're not enough, that you'll fail, that stepping out of your comfort zone will only bring pain. But let me ask you this, what if the real danger lies in not taking that step? C.S. Lewis once said, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." How true that is. You are standing on the edge of your story, the chapter unwritten, and it's entirely up to you whether you let fear scribble its lies across those pages, or if you take up the pen and start writing with courage. Think of the times when you felt most alive, most aligned with your purpose. Those moments were not born of safety, but of risk. Lewis understood this deeply, writing in the screw-tape letters about the subtle ways fear can paralyze us, keeping us from the fullness of life God intended. You are not alone in these struggles. As Lewis described the human condition, pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pain. Your fears, though painful, can be the catalyst that drives you to seek out the support you need. Reach out to those who believe in you, who have walked the same paths of doubt and emerged stronger. They are your community, your lifeline. And like you, they have leaned on God and others to find strength. But here's the profound truth: no one else can live your purpose. The world is aching for the gifts that only you can bring. It's not just about your dreams, but about the people who are waiting for you to rise, to bring light into their darkness. Can you feel the weight of that responsibility? C.S. Lewis spoke often of the weight of glory, that calling we each carry to reflect the goodness, the beauty, and the love of God in a world that desperately needs it. He understood that this burden is both a privilege and a challenge. So today, will you take that step? Will you move, even in fear, toward the future God has crafted uniquely for you? Don't let your doubts dictate the path. Instead, see them as signs that you are stepping into a new chapter of growth. Take one small action today, something that makes you tremble, that pushes you out of comfort and into courage. And tomorrow, take another. And as you do, know this: you are becoming more than you ever thought possible. Your life, your story, is being written in the ink of faith and perseverance. As C.S. Lewis said, there are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. Keep moving forward, you've only just begun. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Courage, dear heart, but how often do we shrink back in fear, convinced that we're not enough, that the obstacles ahead are too great?" Have you ever found yourself standing at the edge of possibility, hesitating to take that step forward because doubt whispers that failure is inevitable? We all carry the weight of self-doubt at times, but what if those moments of hesitation are the very doorways to our greatest transformation? When you face those fears, when you decide that failure is not the end but a teacher, you begin to realize that the hardest paths often lead to the most extraordinary destinations. What does it take to truly believe in the person God created you to be? Lewis reminds us that our potential lies not in avoiding difficulty but in embracing it, understanding that every challenge is shaping us into who we are meant to become. Could it be that the discomfort, the fear, the obstacles are all part of a divine plan to refine you, to strengthen you, and to reveal the depth of your resilience? Take a moment and consider, what dreams have you left behind because they seem too far out of reach? What passions have you set aside because you thought you didn't have the strength? God never intended for us to live timid lives, filled with what-ifs and maybes. You were made for bold action, for steps that require faith, for moments that demand you to trust in something greater than your fear. The world waits for you, not the timid, hesitant version of yourself, but the one that stands firm in the belief that God equips the called, that He provides what is needed when you step forward in faith. The world needs you to step up, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. When you look fear in the eye and say, "Here I am," you not only change your own life, you give others permission to rise as well. As Lewis said, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. What if your fears are simply the starting line for a journey toward greatness? Choose today to walk that path, to embrace the discomfort, and to trust that in the face of fear, God will meet you there. Have you ever wondered why some dreams remain just that, dreams, while others take flight and become reality? What separates those who yearn for more from those who seize their aspirations and craft them into something tangible? Perhaps, deep down, we already know the answer. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "You are never too old to set another goal, or to dream a new dream, but setting goals and dreaming are only the beginning. It's the actions we take, the steps that follow the dream, that transform our world." When you take that first step, even if it trembles beneath your feet, you are defying fear itself. You are acknowledging that fear will always be present, but does not have the final say in your story. The courage it takes to move forward in the face of uncertainty, to push forward when every fiber of your being screams to retreat, is where transformation begins. C.S. Lewis also reminds us, courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point. Each small action, each small decision to keep going, builds upon itself, eventually creating a powerful momentum toward your destiny. But why is it so hard to take those steps when we know, deep inside, that they will lead to something greater? We can find ourselves paralyzed by doubt, afraid of failing, afraid that the journey is too difficult. In those moments, ask yourself, what would your life look like if you embraced the discomfort of growth instead of seeking the comfort of the familiar? What might happen if you dared to believe in your ability to overcome the obstacles you face? Consider this: every obstacle in your path is not a roadblock, but a stepping stone, designed to strengthen you. Just as Lewis wrote, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. The truth is, your fears and doubts are part of your journey. But they are not the whole story. Beyond those fears lies a version of yourself you haven't yet met, stronger, wiser, and more capable than you can imagine. The dreamers dream, but the doers take action. You are not merely a dreamer. You have the ability to create, to push through discomfort, and to see your dreams take shape in reality. Just as a sculptor chisels away at marble, bit by bit, to reveal the masterpiece within, so too do you carve out your future through every step, every push forward, every act of faith in yourself. Remember, you are capable of doing far more than you think, even in the moments when you feel weakest. You are in the process of becoming, and that process requires patience, endurance, and above all, action. So, take that next step, and then take another. Trust that even the smallest actions carry you toward a future brimming with possibility. Lewis also said, "The future is something which everyone reaches at the rate of 60 minutes an hour. Whatever he does, whoever he is, your progress, however slow or fast, is movement toward a life of purpose, passion, and fulfillment." Keep moving, keep believing, and watch as the life you've only imagined starts to unfold before your very eyes. And when you stand on the other side, when you've faced the fears and conquered the challenges, you will realize it was all worth it. You will understand that every moment of hesitation, every battle fought within yourself, has brought you closer to the life you were meant to live. A life full of joy, purpose, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are fulfilling your destiny. That's the power of action. And that's the power of trusting yourself to become who you were always meant to be. What is it that tugs at the core of your soul? The quiet whisper urging you to step out and take hold of a life beyond your current reach. Perhaps it's fear, doubt, or past failures that have kept you trapped, frozen in a state of inaction. C.S. Lewis once said, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." Those words ring true when life offers the opportunity for transformation, yet we hesitate. But why? What voice inside holds you captive to a past version of yourself? It's time to confront that voice. Life is not meant to be lived in the shadows of what could have been, but in the light of what can still be. Like Aslan's roar in the Chronicles of Narnia calling forth courage, your future is waiting, calling you to rise. What would happen if you let go of the self-doubt that cripples your potential? What if you embrace the unknown, not as an enemy but as an ally in your journey toward greatness? God designed you with purpose, with strength that often lies dormant until you dare to awaken it. So why not now? Why not embrace the discomfort that comes with stepping into the unknown? Lewis also wrote, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny, so instead of shrinking back from challenges, lean into them. Each obstacle is not a barrier but a stepping stone leading you closer to the life God has already envisioned for you. But this life won't manifest by accident. It requires action, intentional, courageous, faith-filled action. Ask yourself, what have you been avoiding that could be the very catalyst for your breakthrough? The discomfort, the fear, the risk. They are not your enemies. They are your greatest teachers, waiting to refine you, to mold you into the person you were always meant to be. Just as Peter had to step out of the boat to walk on water, you must step into the uncertainty of life's storms, trusting that God's hand will sustain you, even when the winds howl. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a step toward becoming the person God created you to be. As C.S. Lewis said, "Courage, dear heart, take that to heart." Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear, it means acting despite it. And as you take these steps, remember that your life has the power to inspire others. Your courage could be the very thing that sets someone else free. So today, decide. Will you continue living within the confines of your fears, or will you rise to the challenge of your potential? The world doesn't need another person waiting for the perfect moment. It needs you right now. You are capable of incredible things. God has already placed within you all the tools necessary for greatness, but you must wield them. Don't wait. Don't second-guess your worth or your abilities. Step forward in faith, knowing that with each courageous act, you are rewriting the ending to your story, an ending that shines with God's purpose, glory, and love. Take action, not just for yourself, but for the world that is waiting for the fullness of who you are. The world needs you to be bold, to be daring, and to show up as the masterpiece God has crafted you to be. So take that first step and let your journey begin. Imagine waking up each morning with a deep sense of anticipation, feeling the quiet pull towards something greater, something eternal. Have you ever questioned the meaning of your days? Why you long to do more, to be more? C.S. Lewis once wrote, "If I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that I was made for another world. This longing for purpose, for passion, isn't mere ambition. It's a calling, a divine invitation to step into a life full of meaning. But how often do we hesitate, caught in fear or doubt? What would happen if you let go of the excuses and embraced that calling? Life, when driven by purpose, isn't just about accomplishments or accolades, it's about who we become in the process. Think about it. When was the last time you felt truly alive? Not because of success, but because you followed your heart and created something meaningful. Lewis spoke of joy as a signpost of God's presence, a deep yearning for a joy that comes only when we pursue our God-given passions. So, instead of living a life of quiet resignation, why not chase those dreams that stir your soul? After all, God plants dreams within us not to frustrate us, but to lead us toward the life we were created to live. Together, we can face the doubts and obstacles that cloud our vision. Let's move forward with fierce determination, knowing that we're not alone in this journey. Let's celebrate each step forward, trusting that every small action contributes to something much greater. Life is not a solo venture but a collective symphony of contributions, each one leaving its mark on the world. As C.S. Lewis reminds us, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. So let's make today the day we take action, trusting in the purpose God has set before us joyfully, passionately, and together every single day.